Welcome to another Rostify webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to today's webinar. We've got two fantastic guests and a really good subject to get our teeth into today. So today is when the safety net shrinks, preparing your volunteer program for changes in food security support. This is a huge topic that's very, very relevant in North America at the moment. We've got volunteer programs from the food sector, security sector, and community volunteering in general under a hell of a lot of pressure to deliver on their service as the world around them changes. So I thought no better than to ask Katie from Blessings of Hope to join the webinar, as well as Jen from RKD Group. They we'll do proper introductions with them very, very shortly. You may see a QR code, or I hope you do, on the screen at the moment. This is a Slido system that we use. It helps us with the Q&A. So when people have got questions, which no doubt you will, for Katie and Jen, what I recommend you doing, it's what I've done 100 times before, is use your phone for this one. Scan the QR code on your phone, and then you can access the Q&A. You can't really see it on there, on your mobile as we go through. Just drop a little message in chat if you're having a problem logging into that, but it's a great system to use, and it will allow a little bit of interaction. Also, we've got some polls during the presentation as well, just to get a feel for your guys' current view at the moment on your particular volunteer programs, and just some insight that we can gather. So like I said, the two guests that we've got, Blessings of Hope and RKD Group. We've got Katie and Jen, who will be introduced very, very shortly. As we're about to start, this is really just for me to make sure that the Slido system is working as it should do. I'm going to ask a little question for the like someone else has jumped in already. That's really good to see. At least I know that it works. What program do you manage within your organization? So I appreciate we've got lots of people. We've got lots of people on the call today, by the way, which is really, really good. This has been one of our more popular webinars, and I'm really excited about that. We've got people from the volunteering sector, from fundraising. Sometimes you get people from both. If it's a smaller organization, you tend to have to wear many, many hats. But we're looking at predominantly volunteering at the moment, which is interesting. I'll just give a minute or two just for anybody else who are feeling brave enough to scan the QR code and get involved. You will need that a little bit later as we go through the Q&A, so it's worth just double checking that you can log in and do it. But thank you for the people that are doing it at the moment. So as we can see, we've got a large proportion of the people that entered the poll. The general feeling here is most of them from volunteering, which is great because that's exactly where Katie's from as well. So she'll get some interesting insights for you coming up. And let me just, I knew I'd do that. Let's double check that this one's good as well. So how prepared do you feel your organization is to adapt to changes in food security support? So this is the topic of the day, right? How ready is your program for what's going to be happening as the year goes on? We know that changes have happened to the SNAP benefit system. We know that people are being squeezed really when it comes to the cost of living crisis. No doubt we'll probably see more people at the door of your food bank or your community programs that maybe you haven't met before. We're introducing to new people to your communities that perhaps haven't needed the service before. But the general consensus here, this is interesting, is you're about in the middle, right? So you're probably doing a hell of a lot of things right. You're probably making a huge difference, but there are changes on the horizon, and it could be that we just need a little upskill, maybe improve our knowledge and get a little bit more strategic to make ourselves really feel prepared for what's coming. So here's the agenda for today's webinar. I'm hoping this will be about 30 minutes long. If there are any questions that we don't get to ask, if you email me, I'm going to email everybody after the presentation anyway. Just email me your questions and I'll pass them on to the relevant parties. But we're going to do the first section with Blessings of Hope. Then we're going to go to RKD Group. Then there'll be a Q&A session. So very, very quickly about Rostify. So why are we hosting this? Rostify are a volunteer management platform. We're a global program with teams in Melbourne, Sydney, London, New York, Denver, all across the world. And our platform is used by everybody from the Super Bowl to Formula One to household name charities like the British Heart Foundation and the Red Cross and such. We're very, very pleased to have Blessings of Hope as one of our customers, and we're growing that network as well with Houston Food Bank and Maryland Food Bank too. Lots of people joining the community, and really what we do is we streamline and automate volunteer management. So we just make it easier to scale your program, reach more people, grow the program, help more people, do your mission and not get stuck in the admin. So that's enough about Rostify. Now I want to talk about Katie. Katie, if you can switch your camera on and your mic, obviously, because we want to hear from you, that would be great. Everybody, this is Katie. Katie, this is everybody. Nice to see you again. Yeah,
nice to meet everyone.
Thank you very much for jumping on the call. Perhaps before we dive into the first question, you might just give a top level view about who Blessings of Hope are.
We have 5 locations in Lancaster, Pennsylvania that volunteers can come work at.
Perfect. So we've got the first question here. We've got Katie's question 1. With the 2026 expansion of SNAP work requirements for adults up to the age of 64, how many more individuals are now required to log in multiple hours of work and show their volunteering monthly in order to maintain their benefits? So my question, Katie, is has Blessing Hope seen the impact of this, changes in the program?
Yes, we definitely have. We are weekly watching our number of shifts filled, and since that SNAP benefit, we have seen over 80% of our shifts filled, which it was closer to like 70%, like sometimes 65%. So it's definitely been an uptick in volunteers coming in. And we also have our name down as one of the places to volunteer, like with the SNAP benefit. Like if they're, telling them to go volunteer somewhere, like our name is one of the names that are down for that.
Excuse my ignorance there, but how did you get your name on that program? Is there anything you'd recommend other food bank organizations to do to make sure that they're visible too?
We actually had someone reach out to us to see if we would be interested in having our name down. So I'm not quite sure exactly how, who would have reached out, but it was someone in our community that had reached out and asked if we would be interested in that. With our connections, some of the police do come and get food as well to give out to the community. So I think some of that connection also kind of got our name into that system.
But generally speaking, you've seen an uptake in both volunteers and needing the service as well?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so here's a quick poll just for the question. Hopefully this will be interesting for you, Katie, as well, that we can talk about. How would you describe your organization's service delivery over the last 3 or 4 months? So we've seen a lot change in the sector, and my question for the audience is, has service delivery increased for you? So you're seeing new people turn up at your door. Has it decreased as changes to your program meant that you've been unable to deliver on the local services, or do you feel it's kind of stagnated, like it's about the same as what it was previously? So we're having a few people here, Katie, enter the poll. We can see that for the most part, service delivery has increased, that we're seeing extra demand. Now, it could be that extra demand is having a little bit of an impact on internally teams. There's a lot of admin, a lot of extra new applications that are being made to volunteer. I mean, no doubt you feel that, Katie, from time to time, right? When you get a bit of an influx in applications.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go on. No, go on.
So we have close to 200 new applications every week that are coming in right now. So I feel like it's definitely more than it has been in the past.
So the second question, me and you have talked a little bit about your selection center before, and I really love this. But the selection center that you've got, it's really unique, and it's where volunteers can also be beneficiaries for taking home food at a reduced rate. So my question here is, why is it important to implement this within your community? And what advice would you give other food banks who are keen on repeating this? So what is the selection center really, and how important is it to your program?
So the selection center is a place that our volunteers can go after they have volunteered a shift, and they can get food with a partnership cost. And that's just one way that we have decided to give back to our volunteers as well. Like, especially, in this time, we have families that come in that have like 10 children sometimes. Like, it definitely helps with their monthly grocery bills and stuff. So that is like one way we have found to be able to give back to our volunteers as well.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and it shows that you're not just able to help the people that require the service, but the volunteers themselves are benefiting hugely from the program. So
Yeah.
I guess it makes them feel closer to the cause as well, which we know is important. I know that Rostify was a big upgrade for Blessings of Hope in order for you to scale up. One thing I'm really interested in how you've made it, how you've managed to keep it inclusive, because if there's one thing I know about your program is that there is this overlap here with um, your Mennonite and your Amish supporters. Now we know that they don't use smartphones and email. So yeah, how has your team managed that?
So we do have a way to like set up a temporary account on the volunteer, like on the Rosterify side. So we have done that where we made it where they don't need to have an email to sign up. So we create a temporary account when they call in and add them to the shift. But then when they actually walk in the door, we have a paper application for them to fill out. So that's the way we have worked the solution for, if they're not able to be on the internet or anything like that, then they're able to call in and we can still add them to our schedule so that the shift still reflects that they're coming.
Yeah, and I appreciate this. What I'm talking about here is incredibly niche, really, isn't it? Not every program will have this challenge, but I think it's important to identify that there's a degree of flexibility I think that you need in your process and in your program to account for the situations like this that do come up, that maybe accessibility or the way that you interact with the community might need to change, and having the right people within your organization, and Katie, you're clearly one of them, but then also the team that's around you too, to be flexible enough to adapt what you're doing to meet those specific needs, because we know recruitment is incredibly difficult, and the last thing you want to do is put up barriers or friction in your system. So yeah, I think it's amazing that you guys are able to adapt to your particular requirements and your particular community's need. Quick question for the audience, just a quick poll. We're curious at Rostify. Do you allow walk-ins for volunteering? So can someone just turn up at the door and fill out a nice, quick, easy form and get going straight away? Or do you require them to register ahead of time if they've got to go on the website and fill out maybe a form or book in a different way? Curious for us to know this one. This looks pretty split, actually. Katie, do you allow walk-ins, or do you require them to log into the system?
We do ask them to schedule. We have a limited amount of space that we have like available at our location. If someone does walk in, we do try to see, like we check with the back, see if they have space for that day. But then we do ask them, like, for the future, if they could let us know ahead of time if they're planning on coming in.
Okay. So question 4. Sorry. You've mentioned in the past that you've used real-time data to tell volunteers exactly where their boxes are going from Baltimore to Philly. As we move towards doubling your volunteer capacity, because that's your goal, what is your strategy to keep that deep connection alive so volunteers don't feel like they're just cogs in a big machine?
So we actually have a volunteer engagement team that will like reach out to volunteers, thank them for volunteering. We have just implemented some volunteer experiences. So like sometimes after the shift, before the next shift, we'll serve lattes. Like we'll have a couple people come out with a latte machine, and we'll like make fresh lattes right there for them. We've done, like, when it was really, really cold the last couple weeks, we did a hot chocolate day where, like, when they were done with their shift before they went out into the cold, we just like put together a pot of hot chocolate and gave it out as they left. So there's just a couple ways that we're trying to make sure that we still value our volunteers. Like, even as we scale that, in each location, like, we can make those small experiences that make the volunteers feel included as well.
Now, I love one thing I particularly love is that your volunteers, they're not just packing boxes, but they know where those boxes are going to go. They know the communities that they're going to go to as well. We know that we speak with a lot of like national or large statewide volunteer programs and food bank programs as well. And I think sometimes you can get a lot that can get lost in the shuffle a little bit. Like they're doing something that is going to be very impactful, but they don't really know where it's going to go to. It could go to a number of different places. I think something that can't overlook, which Blessings of Hope do so well, is you inform them. You say, today, everything we're doing today is going to Baltimore. And that I just love that. I feel like that connects people to the cause, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
Question 5, Blessings of Hope has grown exponentially in just a few years. Looking at the next 12 to 24 months, what's your biggest growing pain, and what have you identified in your volunteer journey that you're hoping Rostify can solve, or just in general?
So as we continue to grow and our volunteer base, the stats that we can get from Rosterify, I feel like that will be the biggest benefit that we have. Is like, you can pull like reports from Rosterify of like how many people over a certain age are coming in, or how many people are coming. So different, like, I feel like the stats is really a huge benefit that we have seen from Rosterify, and how it will help us to stay engaged with our volunteers. Like, our engagement team can pull some of those reports and make sure that we still stay connected with our volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the demands of your program increase and you need to increase volunteer numbers, I think like knowing what's actually going on within your organization, be able to share that wider within your organization is vitally important. I've seen firsthand that far too much data is just held in volunteering, and it could be in other parts of the organization too, to increase your chances to reach more people and serve your mission. So I've absolutely no doubt, after spending a bit of time with your team and understanding what you're about, that you'll be able to absolutely smash that in the next 12 to 24 months, which is great.
Thank you.
That's okay. Last question on here. How would your volunteers rate the experience that you offer them from the moment they're recruited all the way up to their first shift? Yeah, I appreciate that's quite a broad question, but I think it's really good to sometimes take a step back and reflect. Like, if I was volunteering with your organization, how would I feel? Do I feel that your onboarding sequence is streamlined and easy to do? Do we put up barriers? Do we make people feel connected to the cause? Do we do some of the things that Katie's just been talking about there, about feeling connected, understanding what's happening, but also building a scalable system underneath it all? I'm loving these high scores, by the way. That's great. This is what we need. This is what we need in 2026, when more people are asking for your service, and you're going to need more hands and more people to help. We need to make sure that we're offering the best possible experience, so we don't lose people. We don't have them apply and then fall out of the recruitment journey just because perhaps we've put a bit of a bottleneck there where we need to get back to them at a later date, or somebody else needs to follow up. Like, are we putting in an automated flow and making it feel both automated and streamlined, but also not losing the human element too? So lovely to see that. Lovely high score there. Good. Thank you, Katie, for going through that. I'm going to introduce Jen now. Jen, are you there? Have I lost you, Jen? Have you got your camera and your mic?
I'm all here.
Perfect. So Jen, if you can just do a quick introduction to RKD Group, and I understand you're going to be talking a little bit more about the strategic element, about how to cope with the changes that are coming in this year. I will now turn my camera off and over to you, Jen.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jen Thompson, SVP of Digital Growth at RKD. RKD is a leading marketing solutions fundraising provider for a variety of nonprofits. We work with over 80 food banks, I think it is these days. And I personally have worked with a lot of food banks. I volunteered at some, loved all the stuff you were talking about, Katie. The volunteer experience is really important, and it helps build a connection with the volunteer and the hopefully soon to be donor at some point. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about volunteering and giving, right? Those two things, sometimes it's two very different teams. I mean, the first question, and I was the one who gave Martin the question to ask is, are you here from volunteering or fundraising? Or maybe both. And I think sometimes when it's two different teams, the teams don't always communicate on every opportunity to cultivate both those groups as much as they could. But we have some market research that we do, and it has shown that the group of people who volunteer and donate with an organization are really the most valuable segment of people that you want. These folks are giving more than average, giving to more organizations than the average, and they're giving twice as much as the average, so in money. And I think the time add-on as well makes them even more valuable. So this is a group of people that you really want to pay attention to. Martin, I think go to the next one, because I just want to show right by demographic, by age. Gen Z, I would say right now, don't have as much money to give, so they're pretty split on giving time and money at the same level. And over time, you get less volunteering, but you get more donations, more money being given. But if you can keep cultivating people for both and reminding them that both opportunities are there, that's going to give you lifelong supporters in some fashion, either giving time or money, and hopefully both. If you go to the next one, great to see, as people have more money over their lifetime, right? They get a job, they can donate more. Their giving increases and their volunteering can increase as well. So really important to try to bridge both of these groups and not just have, oh, those are volunteers and oh, those are donors. I've worked with enough food banks and different organizations to know that you really got to think about these organizations. So I just wanted to bring a couple recommendations. For one, is volunteering easy to find on the website? Volunteering sometimes takes a backseat to the donate button. I, as a fundraiser, am probably the first one to say the donate button should be big and bold and on the homepage multiple times. And sometimes that means volunteering is like ways to give. How else can I help? And you got to take 2 or 3 clicks to get that. And I think Katie would agree. Maybe we bury it too much, and it doesn't become the one of the easier ways to help an organization. It gets buried. So I would say evaluate your website and see if maybe it's 4 clicks down, and it could be a little higher, easier to find, especially now with more people maybe needing to volunteer with the SNAP requirements. And because the need has increased, you want it to be easy to find so people know that you have volunteer opportunities. Second recommendation, do you have volunteers as an email segment? Sometimes volunteers get put in a whole different system than your regular email communications, right? There's somebody else's CRM to manage. They're not in the MailChimp or the Salesforce or whatever platform you're using to send communications. So I think they should be a segment. I think you should be thinking about, do they get the newsletter? Do they get the impact reports? Do they get some fun communications where you're talking about, the stories of the need? Those, volunteers, again, I think sometimes take a backseat to donors, and you would be smart to try to get them more communication about the need. And I would even say volunteers, Katie had mentioned this on an earlier call, that at the end of every shift, right, volunteers get a summary of how much food they helped box up and where it's going, and is that meals or pounds of food, whatever it is. Those could be really fun, feel good Friday messages that go out. Donors would love to see that sort of real-time activity of what's happening. And I think we don't think about sending donors information about volunteers and what they're doing. And I don't think we send volunteers enough information about what the donors are hoping made possible either. So more communication to bridge the two would be great. Just two more quick ones. If you have a giving day, and if you don't, you really should reach out to me. We can talk about it. I love a good giving day. I don't think we do enough to help promote volunteering or make volunteering part of a giving day, right? Normally it's a goal. We want more new sustainers. We want new donations, help us raise X amount of money. Your gifts are matched. Maybe it should also be, we want to sign up 50 new volunteers today, 100 new volunteers. Like those would be great ways to get the volunteer team part of a giving day solution. And last one is texting. If you're not leveraging texting for volunteering or donating, I think you're missing out. It's a great channel. It's very real time. You get great response. Highly recommend you add SMS to your overall platform to use. Warren, that's what I brought. I don't want to take up too much time because I feel like we're right at the minute mark.
No, that's perfect. One observation that I got from your data was that we're seeing that volunteer rates are highest around the sort of Gen Z millennial. Well, the volunteering rates are highest around Gen Z and millennials, but the giving rates are much higher for your sort of boomers and your seniors. So a question that I have for you, Jen, is like, should food banks be viewing their younger volunteers as their like long-term donor pipeline? Like what can they do early to encourage that when they reach that later that they're more inclined to donate?
I think absolutely, because the more you can cultivate the giving and the volunteering, right, you're going to see they're more valuable over time, right? The data shows that those are the most valuable people. So try to use each one for the other. But I would say maybe we should not think about somebody as a donor or a volunteer. We should think about them as a fan, a supporter, just that global constituent, and then you can try to personalize to their interests a little bit more, but cultivate them across the whole spectrum and not just stick them in one label, and then they don't get the value of seeing the other stuff happening.
Yeah, I love that. Supporters is what I've been using the phrase for when I've been speaking. So because you can be both, right? You can, in fact, probably most volunteers probably are, right? They probably, when they can't give time, they can give money. That doesn't mean that they're one thing or the other. So
yeah, you want them to be a giver, right? Whatever they can give.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so we've got Q&A now for the wider audience. So everybody watching, if you've got a question for Katie or Jen, we've got an opportunity to scan the QR code, and then a little pop-up comes up with questions. These are all anonymous if you need to. So you'll see on my, I don't know if you can see, look, it does that blurry out thing. You can, when you log on there, it can do, you can drop down a question on there. I'm just going to click on here and we can see the questions as they pop up. So what is the reduced rate? That is quite a broad question, to be honest. I'm not really sure who that's directed to. Yeah, I'm not sure. Perhaps they could follow up with another question that's a little bit clearer who that's going to. If you put on your question who you'd like to ask the question to, and then that might help a little bit too. That would be super helpful. We've got enough time just for a few questions towards the end as we wrap up on here. I'll just give it a minute or so just to see where people are shy and then they realize they're running out of time and we don't get any. So what is the best way to bridge the gap from just being a volunteer or donor to becoming an overall supporter? I love that question from Matt. Thank you. That is really good, actually. That's a question that both of you, I believe, will probably have some insight into. Katie, as you've been quiet for the last sort of 5-10 minutes, maybe you could jump in first with that. What would you do?
So, I mean, what we have done is we have, like when we do tours, we have groups come in that volunteer with us. And as we're doing the tour, we share the opportunity that we have for them to become a monthly donor as well. So that's one way that we have been able to just share the opportunity with them. We do sometimes have like we have our volunteer appreciation coming up, and we do tours through that as well. So that's one place that we usually share about our opportunities for partnering with us as well with their donor side.
Do you mention, Katie, do you mention the amount of donations that have been made to the volunteer base? Or perhaps to the volunteer base, do you mention how many hours of volunteering that you've had?
We do mention how many, we have a graph of how many volunteers worked each week, how many volunteer hours that we had. We also just did one for the whole year of 2025, like how many hours, people came, and that has helped a lot, like for just to share, like if we would have had to pay somebody to work all those hours, it would have been over $1 million for what we would have had to do. So we would have had to pay about 50 people to do what our volunteers have done for us. So just like that, those little snippets also help a lot when we were like giving some of the examples.
Yeah. Jen, how would you bridge the gap there?
One, I would make sure you remember it's okay to ask volunteers to donate and donors to volunteer. So don't be afraid to ask the other to try the other way to support. And two, I would just think if you're going to send something to volunteers that's trying to get them to come back, consider sending something that's similar to the donors. If you're sending something to donors about an impact story and how their gift helped, why not include volunteers in a similar message? Maybe they get a slightly different version of it or a different call to action. Maybe theirs, instead of donate, is volunteer, or mix the two. But I think you get a lot of, well, I can't ask my volunteers to do anything else. I just need them to volunteer. I can't ask my donor. I don't want to ask my donors to give time because I need them to donate, right? So I think you got to give them both opportunities sometimes.
Yeah. Katie, a question that was on here was that you mentioned a reduced rate in the volunteer options in the selection center. So we've got somebody here who's curious perhaps by how much you've reduced it, or how you've managed.
What we call it is our partnership cost. We get people to help with like the handling of the food, and right now for our volunteers, it is we do it by the pound, so it's 60 cents a pound. Mm-hmm. And then it's for anything that they would find at our selection center they can get at 60 cents a pound.
Right.
And nice. We at the end of their shift, they get like what we call our vouchers, and we were able to print that right out from Rosterify, and then they have one trip to our selection center with that voucher.
Nice. Hopefully that answers their question. That's excellent. So if we don't have sorry, excuse me. If we don't have any more questions, I think we can wrap up quickly. I want to thank, well, first of all, I just want to thank our guests, Katie and Jen, for joining us. I am going to give a little bit of a plug to an upcoming webinar that we've got with SJ Consulting. They're talking about how to turn doers into donors. So strategies to increase support from your volunteer community. Kind of touched on it a little bit today, didn't we? But Chris from SJ Consulting has got some interesting views and tactics to manage that too. And if you're interested in volunteer management software, obviously get in touch with us. But more importantly, if you're interested in strategically how to manage your marketing, your strategy, your comms, and get your team wrapped around how you're going to approach 2026, I would definitely recommend reaching out to Jen and reaching out to RKD Group to talk about what they can potentially do for you. I will share details after when we close up the webinar from today, so you'll be able to reach out to Jen. No doubt you can find Jen on LinkedIn just as you can me. And also I'd like to really thank Katie. They're incredibly busy. She's honestly, she's been so generous with her time as well. The team there do brilliant work, and we love working with them. And hopefully we'll get you back, Katie, for another webinar that we can do on a similar subject. So yeah, thank you everybody for attending, and the recording will be available on our website as well. So we have like an on-demand section of the webinar and events page on our website. We've actually got a new website that's launching at the end of the week, so I hope the whole thing doesn't crash and you can still get this. But that's quite exciting, going for a bit of a rebrand of it. So all of these websites, I've been reassured that all of the recordings of the webinars that we've done will be available on there. So if you want to share that with somebody, or you know somebody that couldn't make it, you can find them on there. Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you very much, Katie. Lovely seeing you both again. And yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you for the opportunity.